Hi, it's Johnny, and this is one of those exploratory videos where I'm trying, I think I figured it out. I've been doing this now for a couple of months, but by putting voice to this, what I'm hoping is that this will make this super clear in my mind. What I want this to become, we're on the topic of projects. What is a project? How do you manage projects? So it's quite a big topic, and this will naturally fit into the end of the task and project management course. All of this vomit will be distilled by me into neat 4-minute episodes for the end of that course, and that's what this video is in service of. I'm still just trying to get a complete lock on this, and I want this to be for discussion, and like I say, this kind of helps me work it out in my own brain. So thanks for following along. That's what this is. If you're watching and you think, I just want to know how to do this, give me about another month, and this should be, it will be, episodes on the end of the task and project management course proper. And the second point of this is 2 points really, is to really clarify what exactly is a project, when exactly do you use them, which I'll go through in great detail, and introducing a new concept which is an adaptation of our old concept, which is the creative pattern turned into a thing we call work packages. Lucy and I have been using this scheme, as I'll describe it, for months now, and we're both very, very happy with it. So I'm pretty sure this is here to stay, but this is your opportunity. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And I'm talking to Raven and Michael specifically. So I've gone through all your notes in great details, and I don't think there's ever going to be one scheme where everybody universally will agree how to manage projects. I don't think that's possible, but I think what I've got here is a nice thing. I'll just get on with it. Right. So by the end of task and project management, the course, we got very comfortable managing tasks. And to recap, a task is a single action or a short sequence of actions that you can complete in a sitting. They often just happen to you. You just get told when to pay the electricity bill. You don't really choose when to do that. We can see them as chores. And this is why I advocated for doing them in the morning, because you just kind of need to get them out of the way. Tasks aren't complicated. You know, you just need to do them. So let's have a look at a couple here, and let's give ourselves a handful of tasks that are a bit more interesting than paying the electricity bill. And this is how I run my own system. So this is my actual system below, but we're going to use Susan, our example person here. And what we've got is the split between tasks and projects that I'll explain in a second. And these are things, areas. You get this by creating a new area. It's a folder, if you like. So Susan's tasks are in here, and this is how we set up the life admin system. And what we've got, these 2 tasks are just existing within a heading, and that's often enough. I tend to find with my own tasks, because they are so come and go, they're so short-lived, I don't need to go creating great details for them. I don't need to bury them in IDs. It's always, not always, it's 95% often enough to just assign them to a heading and then just do them when they come round. Okay, so let's get on to projects. Projects are more complex. They take different shapes, and that's what we're going to explore here, and can be managed in different ways. So the widest definition of a project is that it is a series of related tasks that generally can't be done in one sitting, that you often choose to initiate yourself, and they are the things that we see as driving your life forward, as opposed to the tasks and chores are just things you need to do, like paying bills. Hopefully, not necessarily, they are the things you want to be doing with life. They are the good work, as we say. But this presents a bit of a quandary, a dilemma, because you've chosen to do them. And so I think we very well understand that if you don't pay the electricity bill, bad things are just going to happen. You're just going to lose your credit rating, and it's going to suck. Whereas if you don't do projects, there is often little if no consequence, and so they can be much harder to do. And that's what this is what I'm trying to get to here, is a way to better achieve the things that you actually want to do. So these 2 tasks are a classic example of that. These are 2 simple tasks that, if done, your life will be better. You'll have some nice, easy new shelving in the shed, and you won't have boxes all over the floor, and the stuff will be on the shelves. But because they are optional in life, they are the sort of thing that we tend to skip over. So we have a few techniques for dealing with them. Number 1 is, this is what I advocate doing in the morning, in your Be a Better Human time. Just do these things before you start the rest of your actual proper work. Step 2, option 2, if you like, is When you do your morning reviews, you'll see these tasks come around. These are P3 tasks in my nomenclature. They're not scheduled. Well, on a morning when you realize you don't have much to do, or just when the mood strikes, when you think, I will do the shed, Command T will mark those as today. And now when you go to your today view, there are those two things, and you've just told yourself that you would like to do them today. Very importantly, however, this is the trap to get into, to not fall into, is that you might not do them. We know that you might not do them. And so crucially, at the end of the day, if they're still here, you can't leave them there. You didn't do them. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. Something else might have come up. You might have just watched TV. But do not leave these tasks that are not truly things that you must do today. You chose to do them today, this morning. You said, I'll do them today. And then you didn't. And that's fine. And so Command R will clear those dates. And they're back where they were. And nothing bad happened. And it's worse for you to leave them in today and pretend to yourself that you're going to do them first thing tomorrow morning, because you're not, and that's okay. And so this is where we get onto projects, because I think the third interesting way, so we had be a better human there, just do them in the morning, assign them to today and do them at some point today. And then the third way of getting these two things done is by making them into what I'm going to call a tiny project. And that is literally it's just a project with those two tasks in it, and I'm calling it type B. Like I said, this is all a bit exploratory. Now what we've got is a project, and that feels a bit more real to me. We've promoted these two tasks and given them something real. The project is called 12.24 plus sort out the garden shed. Ignore the B, that's just my type B and helps me plan this video. It's 12.24 because 12.24 is renovations and improvements in the Life Admin system. And the sorting out of the shed fits neatly within that. We don't need to create a new ID for putting up a shelf and moving some boxes onto it. And so we use the plus just to indicate that this is an extend the end. Don't worry too much about that. But that's why this is a tiny project. We didn't have to invent some new number. We've already got a number, and all we did was give it some shape. The important thing here is that, and one of the key things I realized since the end of the course, in that course, at the end, you saw me create a project. I think it was called 14.14, do my backups or something. And I put it in the middle of my list of tasks. So here where we've got tasks, I just put that project in the middle of the task lists. What I've since realized is that that is not the way to do these things. What you must do is separate out your task lists, because they're very different things. They're full of just little one-off tasks, from your projects. Because in the morning, you look at your tasks and you do your chores time and you do your reviews and you just get all that stuff out there where you pay your bills and you do all that nonsense. And then the rest of the day is the good work where you do your projects, and you need to be able to see them in two different places. So that's why we've got this project in a projects area. And that lets you do things like, I'll show you mine. That lets you do things like click on that projects area. And these things that we're looking at are all projects. They're not tasks. They're two totally different things. And honestly, once I'm done with my reviews and my tasks in the morning, I never look at this again through the day. I spend my whole day in this projects area. The next stage of a project, this was a tiny project. It's just two tasks that you've chosen to make into a project because it might help you get them done better. That was optional. You didn't have to do that. You could have left them in your task list. Now, let's have a look at this project, which is clearly more stuff. And this is now just a classic project. These are 10 things that clearly are not 10 isolated tasks. They are the sort of thing that you're going to consider doing together. We're basically re-renovating the whole shed situation. I'm not going to read them out. You might set aside an entire Sunday afternoon to do this. You are definitely going to have to drive to the hardware store. You're going to have to spend some money. That's why this is now obviously a project. There's no disputing that. You can't not have a project for this. You can't fit this in a task list over in your tasks. It's the wrong place for it. And then the next type of project is, that was type C1. The letters are meaningless, obviously. The next type is type C2, which is just the same thing, but what I've done is put in some headings and give some sequence to it. So now this actually has a natural sequence. You do these things, then these things, then these things, and it's just more organized. And again, it should now be really obvious that you cannot fit this over in your tasks world. If I tried to fit this in Johnny's 12, it's going to blow this thing out and it's going to be chaos. So it's obviously has to be its own project. Okay, there's another type of project, and that is one where you actually don't have that many tasks, but the project itself takes a long time. And for example, I'm trying to learn Japanese. I am learning Japanese. And so I have these same 4 tasks that just come around every day that just nag me to do this, do a bit of this, do a bit of that. And so they're not that complex. They probably could fit in a task list, but I know that this is a project. This is going to be open for at least 6 months and potentially forever, because I will never finish learning Japanese. And so this is, obviously I've called this a type D. It's a different shape to the previous projects, but I think it's quite obvious that this is also a project. Okay, so far, there's not actually much new there. If you're watching that thinking, yeah, great, so what? I agree. What I wanted to do was just to make that really clear in my mind so that we understood where these patterns fit into. So here's the new bit. When you have a project that is so big, let's look at sorting out the garden shed. This is not a big project, sorting out the garden shed. There are 10 tasks in there. That's trivial. When we recorded the task and project management video course, or before that, the workshop, both of which are 5 and 4 hours of video, that does not fit in a single project like this. And it also doesn't fit, and I know this because we tried it for the workshop, it doesn't fit in a single folder in your file system. We did that for the workshop before we knew any better, and what we ended up doing was creating a massive structure of subfolders. They were very neatly organized, so it was okay. We can still find stuff. But we both agreed, Lucy and I, we didn't enjoy it, and it wasn't the right way to do things. And so when we did, that was the workshop. And so when we did the task and project management series, that's when we realized we needed this new pattern. And here's what that is. So the solution seems obvious enough, and it is. It is to divide the bigger project up into smaller projects, or smaller pieces of work, rather. And by the way, I'm just going to say that the solution I'm about to present here is not some magical thing I've invented. I'm just trying to fit it into the Johnny.Decimal world, and specifically to fit it into things and Obsidian. But the concept I'm going to use here, they're called work packages, and it's bog standard in the corporate world. It's how every large project is managed. So there's nothing actually new here. You divide a bigger project up into smaller parts. And let's just have a look at, before I show you this work package solution, let's just have a look at how you might do that without work packages, because I don't think this is how you should do it. The first option here is 2141 is the ID for our task and project management course. 21 is products and services in the small business system. So 2141 just happened to be the ID for task and project management. And so if I wanted to create new IDs, sibling IDs adjacent to that, I would create 2142, then 2143, and I checked and the course has 39 episodes. So that would essentially use up my whole area category 21, all the way up to 2179. That doesn't feel like an effective use of category 21, so I'm not going to do that. So here's an alternative, which is that you might use the extend the end pattern. We've already seen that before with a plus. You might use 2141 plus Task and Project Management episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in fact, in previous iterations of this, I've toyed with the idea of just putting another decimal on there. 21, 41, 01, 02, 03. I didn't like that. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And if that appeals to you, I think it's all right to do. I didn't like it because that number now feels a bit long. And I don't know, there's something about work packages that I'll show you in a second that we both, me and Lucy, we both think is better. So work packages started life as what we call the creative pattern, and they're essentially the same idea now, just with a different number. And the idea was they were designed to solve exactly this sort of problem, where you have some large piece of work, and then what you need to do, and forgive the mixing of the metaphors with sorting out the garden shed, but we think of it like you need to do some piece of work. You need to produce an episode of a course. And to do that, we have often multiple videos, multiple pieces of text, multiple graphics that Lucy might use in the video or for index cards or whatever. I've got a bunch of words there's a whole bunch of things go into making a video. And so the way we started thinking about this was that you kind of go to your shed. Sorry to mix the metaphors here with this shed thing. But we think of it like you go out to your shed, and what you do is you clank around, you get your tools out, and you take all that stuff in there with you, and you clank around, and you come out, you finish with a thing. All right? I went in the shed with a bunch of sheet metal and some ink and plastic, and I came out with a finished item. And the finished item is the thing of interest. That's the thing that I then upload to YouTube or whatever. That's the thing that's whatever you made. And when you have finished making the thing, what remains in the shed often isn't so interesting. You don't necessarily want to delete it. You often don't want to delete it. I'll explain in a second. But you don't want to see it every day. I don't want it messing up my system. All those video files when we produced the workshop, what I was interested in was the output, the videos that are the workshop, the videos that are the task and project management course. All this other stuff is, once you're finished, is noise, and you don't want it in the way. And so work packages are a perfect solution to this, because what they basically are is just another place to go and do that work. And I'll show you how that works in a second. So basically you have this notion of a project that gets too big, or whose pieces you want to control, like you want to divide. Like Lucy uses this pattern for blog posts when she's writing her blog posts. She likes just having a narrow, confined place that is the blog post she's writing to go and write those words, and she doesn't have to worry about the rest of the system. So how we do that is we give them another number. And I've decided to break with the decimal convention of 10 through 19, 20, 29. The creative pattern used to be at 50 through 59, but then the numbers underneath didn't really match that pattern. So what I'm doing is, mine are now called, I just call them W for work package, and they have 4 numbers, W, N, 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 N. W0000 through W9999. That gives you 10,000. That's enough for decades of work. So it's more than enough numbers. As usual, we reserve the first 10 just in case. And so the first work package number that you can use is W0011. And then you just give it a title like anything else, and that's where you go and do your work. Now, you're probably losing your mind here and thinking, well, all right, I've got this neat Johnny.Decimal system in areas and categories and all that. And now you're just telling me to go over to, because to be clear, you just create work package 11, then 12, then 13, then 14, then 15, and so on, and you just keep going. In our system, we're up to 160 odd, 165. And so you're thinking, well, that's ridiculous. I've just lost all the benefit of my Johnny.Decimal system. And you don't, because here's why. A work package cannot exist in isolation. It is a child of an ID. There's no such thing as a work package that doesn't have one of your IDs as a parent. That simply can't exist. We reinforce this by using the following numbering scheme, and I'll just show you my Obsidian because it's going to be the much simplest way to do that. And the scheme is that you have the work package number, which, to be clear, is the unique reference to the thing. The problem before with extending the end, if you had done 2141 plus, is you don't have a unique ID for each episode. Now we have a unique ID for each episode, W165. There it is. Then what you do is you use the tilde, which kind of means relates to, and then you put the ID, which is the parent of the thing. So I can still very quickly scan through this list of work packages and very quickly see what they all relate to. Anything that starts 21 is a product, anything that starts 31 is marketing, and for our business, that's all of those things. And I can quickly see what they all are. You also, from that parent note, just using a wiki-link, link from the parent down to its work packages, and then you get a backlink from the work package up to, let's have a look at this one, then you get a backlink, there it is, back up to the project. So we link these things together in your system so you can't get lost. They have lots of benefits, these things. One of the benefits I found was that, as well as giving you this kind of clear mental space to go and work, was when we produced the workshop, for example, the folder for the workshop, I'll use 2141 for the task and project management course because I remember the number. When we were finished, that folder was like 200 gigabytes of video, massive. And I can't fit that all on this laptop, and what I want to do is only have some parts of it on this laptop. Well, when you're trying to say to your synchronization system, don't synchronize some subfolders in a folder, it's a nightmare. This is much cleaner. I can just easily block out ranges of work package numbers that I no longer want to synchronize to this laptop, because we're now in this we're now in the original design of Johnny.Decimal, if you like, where you create things in time and they have sequential numbers, and the things with the later numbers are the things you're doing more recently, and the things with the earlier numbers are things that you've already done and have passed through time, which is not the shape of the small business and life admin systems. They tend to be a bit more static. And in fact, you can see from the screen here that I have moved a whole bunch of these work packages into this archive folder, and I only have from 110, and in fact really only from the 140, 150 showing on this laptop. And so I can easily say to my system, don't synchronize all that old stuff, I don't need it. But here's another really brilliant thing, which is quite specific to the sort of job we do, but I think will have broader application, is when Lucy loads these videos into her video editor, in the future, if she comes back to re-edit the videos, if the videos have moved, it's a nightmare, because now the file doesn't link to where it was. The file's moved, basically, and your program is expecting the file to be where it was. And so this very naturally works. What I can do, and what Lucy can do, is to say, unsynchronize these folders, because there's 200 gigabytes of video in them. Time goes on. Months later, she needs to edit the videos again for some reason. They're not currently on her laptop because she's unsynchronized them. But the only thing she needs to do in order to get them to hook up again is to re-synchronize them, tick some boxes, wait while they come over the internet. And now they are on her laptop again. And importantly, they are in exactly the same place that they always were. So you can clean things up, but bring them back into the exact same place they were very, very easily. And that is tremendously helpful for my sort of business. Another benefit is that you don't need to predict the future so much. So when you have a project, it's difficult to know what it's going to become sometimes. And do I create an ID up in, say, the 21s with room around it? Do I think that thing's going to grow? Do I think it's going to expand? Or do I just don't know, right? And so what I do here is, up in your real system, let's call it, up in real Johnny.Decimal world, 20-something.something, you create an ID, and that is the project. Like I said, you must have an ID. You must have this parent ID, which is the master project. It is where everything ends up that you come out of the shed with. It's where this pen goes, the finished pen, but not all the junk that I used to create it. And that project you now don't really have to think about so much. You can just create it. It's a single ID. And these work packages give you essentially limitless room to expand and to go and do all of this work, and then to just finish up and bring that work back. One of the things we do here, which again is an extension of this creative project, and here's my actual system. Every time I need to do one of these projects, let's say this one, online security, there's our video course, I use the template. So I go to my templates folder, I take this template, which is always exactly the same, and I drag it over here and I copy it, and there's a copy of it, and now I hit return and I paste in the work package number that I've copied out of Obsidian, and now I immediately have, it's like a new shed. It's like every time I've got a fresh place to go and work, and it always looks the same. It's always got these template folders. They're synchronized across to Lucy's laptop. They're always familiar to her. When I record this video for her, I don't need to tell her where I put it, because she knows it's going to be in whatever this folder number is. Let's look for it. It's going to be in, oh, shame on me, I haven't actually created one yet. I'm going to create W166, recording this video, blah, 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 title. I'm going to link it to 2114, which is the master concept for what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to duplicate it over in that folder structure. And then I'm going to drop this video into folder number 50. And Lucy won't need to ask me where it is. Wrapping up soon, I promise. So work packages, the other thing we like about them is that they feel like really nice, achievable, atomic pieces of work. If we have a look in my things system, let's just hide all of that, and here's my actual projects list. You can see I do have a mix of traditional project types and work packages. And the nice thing about the work packages is that they're they come and go. I'll have a whole bunch of ones that I've already created. When I'm recording a video, I'll create a quick work package for it. I'll do the things, I'll record the video. What I can do is I can use this projects view, and I can, for example, mark this one today. I can mark an entire project as today, and that appears in my today view, and it'll appear down here, and so on and so forth. And they are really nice and granular and modular. And again, we both find it's a really nice way to just stay focused and stay in a place without all the noise of everything else. That is a long video. I hope that's helped. I think it's helped me because by now this feels kind of obvious to me, and it definitely feels like the right way to do things. And so just to very briefly recap, you can have, and here's my projects view. This is my actual one. It's fine to have a project which is just an ID. Just do that if that's all you need. There's that one there, and there's that one there, and that might have, there you go, look at that. That's got some stuff broken down in it. But as soon as that gets too big, and for some of your projects it will, if this had said the task and project management course, this window we're looking at would have been massive because there were 39 episodes and so on and so forth. It's not sustainable and it doesn't work. When that happens, the solution is create a work package as you need them, W00, the next number, link it to 2134, tilde 2134, link it in your JDEX. You can't possibly ever get lost. Use that template, copy the template across, do your work in there, record your video, go in your shed, bang around, and the thing that gets produced at the end is the finished artifact, and that's the thing you care about. You might move that back up to 2134, which in the case of the task and project management course, we would move the final video is the only thing I need back up at 21.41. The numbers don't matter, obviously. And then the work package remains there for all of time. I don't need to clean it up. Why would I clean it up? I desynchronize it from this laptop because I don't need it here all the time. But if I ever need it again, it's just there. Let me know what you think of that. And I'm sorry it was so long. And thank you to Lucy for editing these ones. When they go over about 12 minutes, you should have her in your heart. Thanks. See you all. Bye.